I hadn't been on a date in over 3 years. Between work and taking care of Ava, my 8-year-old daughter, there hadn't been much time or energy for anything else. But when my coworker Greg insisted that his wife's friend was perfect for me, I caved. Just one night, I told myself. One dinner. No expectations. The restaurant was one of those upscale places where the lighting was dim enough to hide the prices on the menu. I'd arrived 15 minutes early, nerves already twisting in my stomach. I glanced around, adjusting my shirt collar in the reflection of a mirrored column. My palms were clammy. Great start. When Lily walked in, I almost didn't notice her at first. She wasn't flashy, no extravagant dress or dramatic entrance. But there was something magnetic about the way she moved, calm and assured, like she didn't care who was watching. Her dark hair was pulled into a loose bun, and she wore a simple blue dress that looked effortless on her. She scanned the room until her eyes landed on me, and she smiled. "Michael, right?" she said as she approached the table. Her voice was soft, smooth, but there was a strange crispness to the way she pronounced my name, like she'd practiced it. I shook it off, standing to pull out her chair. "And you must be Lily," I said, trying to sound casual. "It's nice to meet you." The first 20 minutes were, well, awkward. We talked about the usual first date stuff, work, family, hobbies. She worked in healthcare, something administrative, though she didn't go into much detail. I mentioned Ava, and her face lit up. "I love kids," she said. "They're so honest, so pure. Ava must be amazing." I nodded, feeling a flicker of guilt for talking about my daughter so soon. Most women I'd dated, well, in the distant past, seemed to lose interest the moment they realized I wasn't just dating them, I was a package deal. But Lily didn't flinch. If anything, she leaned in closer, her eyes locked on mine. "You're really devoted to her," she said, almost in awe. "That's rare. It's admirable." There was something intense about the way she said it, but I told myself it was a compliment. She seemed genuinely interested, asking about Ava's favorite activities, her personality. I found myself relaxing, even enjoying the conversation. By the time the waiter came to take our orders, the tension had eased. Lily had a way of steering the conversation, keeping it light but engaging. She laughed at my dry humor, and her laugh wasn't loud or forced. Just a quiet, almost private sound, like she was sharing a secret with me. I started to feel at ease. But there were small things, tiny, almost imperceptible moments, that tugged at the edges of my awareness. When the waiter accidentally brushed against her arm while setting down her drink, Lily's entire demeanor shifted. Her smile froze, her eyes narrowing just slightly as she adjusted the position of her glass, her fork, and then her knife, perfectly aligned. She caught me watching and laughed it off, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Habit," she said, smiling again. "I like things neat." Later, as she talked about her family, her parents were difficult, she said, and that was all. Her hand traced absent patterns along her forearm. I noticed subtle scars running parallel down her skin. Reflexively, I glanced away, but the image stayed with me. When I looked back, she was watching me. Not accusingly, not defensively, just watching. "Old story," she said lightly, rolling her sleeve down as if it was nothing. "Nothing exciting, I promise." Her smile was warm, disarming. I pushed the moment aside. The night went better than I expected. By the end of dinner, I wasn't sure if it was the wine or Lily's calm demeanor, but I felt more comfortable than I had in years. As we walked out of the restaurant, she turned to me, her hands tucked neatly into her coat pockets. "I had a really nice time," she said, her voice low. "I'd like to see you again if you're open to that." I hesitated, not because I wasn't interested, but because it felt so easy. Too easy. Still, I nodded. "Yeah, me too. Maybe next weekend?" She smiled again, that same quiet, knowing smile. Next weekend sounds perfect. As I watched her walk away, her steps precise and measured, I felt an unfamiliar mix of emotions, relief, curiosity, and a faint whisper of something else, something I couldn't quite name. When I got home, Ava was already asleep, her favorite stuffed bear tucked under her arm. I kissed her forehead and sat on the edge of her bed for a moment, thinking about the evening. Lily had seemed nice, charming, maybe even a little perfect. But as I sat there in the quiet, I couldn't get out of my thoughts. Something about her lingered, just out of reach, like a shadow I couldn't quite place. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Lily and I fell into an easy rhythm, or at least it felt easy. She had a knack for making time for me, always texting at just the right moments or showing up at my favorite coffee shop on her lunch break. I'd be lying if I said I didn't appreciate the attention. After years of putting Ava first and leaving myself last, it was nice to feel noticed. Lily was attentive in a way I hadn't experienced before. She'd remember the smallest details I'd mentioned in passing, like the kind of tea I drank when I was stressed or Ava's favorite flavor of ice cream. Once she surprised us by dropping by with a bag of groceries, saying she'd picked up things she just knew we'd need. It was thoughtful, if not a little presumptuous. Ava liked her too, which surprised me. Normally, Ava was shy around new people, especially women I'd introduced in the past. But with Lily, she warmed up quickly. They'd sit together at the kitchen table, Lily asking her about her favorite books or helping her color. One afternoon, Ava showed Lily a picture she'd drawn, and Lily's face lit up as if Ava had just painted the Mona Lisa. "This is amazing," Lily said, holding the picture carefully. "You're so talented. I hope you know that." Ava beamed, and I couldn't help but smile. Seeing them together felt good, normal. But there were moments, small, fleeting moments, when things felt slightly off, like the time Lily stayed for dinner. She'd offered to help clean up, and when I walked into the kitchen, I found her rearranging my spice rack. She didn't just tidy it up, she organized it alphabetically. When she saw me watching, she laughed, a soft, breathy sound. "Sorry," she said. "I couldn't help myself. It was driving me crazy." I laughed too, brushing it off, but something about the way she said it stuck with me. Then there was the night she stayed over for the first time. Ava was at a sleepover, so it was just us. I woke up around 3 a.m., thirsty, and went to the kitchen for water. I found Lily standing in the dark, staring out the living room window. Her silhouette was still, almost statue-like. "Lily?" I called softly. She didn't move at first, and for a moment, I wondered if she'd heard me. Then slowly she turned around. Her expression was blank and her eyes distant. "Oh," she said after a pause, her voice calm. "Sorry, I couldn't sleep." "Are you okay?" I asked, stepping closer. She smiled softly, tucking her hair behind her ear. "Yeah, just thinking." She walked past me and back to the bedroom without another word. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the spot where she'd been. It wasn't just that moment, though. Other things started piling up. Lily would text me constantly throughout the day. Little things like, "What are you doing?" or "Thinking of you." At first it felt sweet, but then the messages became more frequent and constant. If I didn't respond right away, she'd follow up with, "Are you okay? Or did I do something wrong?" Her need for reassurance was exhausting, but I convinced myself it was harmless. She cared, that's all. She just cared more than most. One Saturday, I invited her to join us at the park. Ava loved the swings, and Lily offered to push her while I sat on a nearby bench. For a while, it was nice watching Ava laugh, seeing Lily smile, but when I glanced over, I noticed Lily staring at me. Not glancing, not smiling, just staring, unblinking. It wasn't a warm look either. It was hard to describe, focused, intense. When our eyes met, she quickly looked away, brushing Ava's hair from her face. I shook it off, telling myself I was overthinking things. She was good with Ava, and she made me feel seen. That's what mattered, right? Still, that night, as I lay in bed, my mind wandered. I thought about the spice racks, the texts, the way she stood in the dark. They were small things, insignificant on their own, but together they painted a picture I couldn't quite make sense of. I guess you could maybe call them red flags. I rolled over, staring at the ceiling, the hum of the heater filling the silence. Something about Lily didn't sit right with me, but I didn't know what. Not yet. It was around the 2-month mark when things started to shift. At first, the changes were subtle, so small I could almost convince myself I was imagining them. Like the time I came home from work to find my fridge reorganized. Lily had stopped by while I was out. She left a note on the counter in her neat, meticulous handwriting. Surprise! I thought I'd tidy up a bit. Hope this makes things easier for you and Ava. At first glance, it was thoughtful. But when I opened the fridge, I realized she hadn't just cleaned it. She'd reorganized everything. The condiments were lined up by height, the milk and juices sorted by expiration date, and even the leftovers were stacked in precise, almost military rows. It was too much. When she called later that evening, I tried to keep my voice light. "Lily, you didn't have to do all that," I said. "I could have handled it." "Oh, don't be silly," she replied, her tone cheerful. "I like helping. Besides, I couldn't let you and Ava live in chaos, could I?" Chaos. I wouldn't have described my fridge as chaotic, but I let it go. She meant well, I told myself. But then there were the other things. The way she started asking questions, specific questions about my routine. "What time do you drop Ava off at school? When do you usually leave for work in the mornings? Do you take the same route home every day?" At first I thought she was just curious. Maybe she wanted to sync her schedule with mine. But the questions kept coming, and they weren't casual. They felt calculated. The texts became more frequent, too. At first they were sweet. "Thinking of you," or "hope you're having a good day." But soon they turned insistent. If I didn't reply within 10 minutes, she'd follow up. "Did I do something wrong? Please don't be mad. Are you ignoring me?" One evening, while I was helping Ava with her homework, my phone buzzed repeatedly. I glanced at the screen to see 3 messages in rapid succession. When I finally texted back to explain I was busy, Lily called. "Michael, are you okay?" she asked as soon as I answered. "Yeah, I'm fine," I said. "I told you I was helping Ava." "I know," she said softly, almost apologetically. I missed you, that's all." Her voice was calm, sweet even, but something about it made me anxious. The scars on her arms started to bother me more too. I'd noticed them before, but now I couldn't stop thinking about them. They weren't faint or accidental. They were deep, jagged lines that ran parallel to each other, too precise to be random. One night, as we sat on the couch watching a movie, her sleeve slipped up, revealing one of the longer scars. I couldn't help staring. She noticed. "Old story," she said lightly, tugging her sleeve back down. Her voice was casual, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Lily, what happened?" I asked, trying to sound concerned but not intrusive. "It's nothing," she said, her tone sharper. "I don't like talking about it." She turned her attention back to the screen. The conversation effectively shut down. That night I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. My mind was racing with questions I didn't have answers to. Why didn't she want to talk about the scars? Why was she always so precise? The way she aligned her utensils at dinner, The way she placed her bag at the exact center of the table, it was all starting to feel less like quirks and more like something else. The breaking point came a week later. I was at work finishing up a late shift when my phone rang. It was Ava's school. "Mr. Carter," the secretary said, her voice hesitant. "I just wanted to confirm, was it okay for Lily to pick Ava up today? She said you sent her." My heart stopped. "No," I said quickly, my voice louder than I intended. "No, it's not okay. Do not let her take my daughter." I hung up and called Lily immediately. She didn't answer. I called again. On the third try, she picked up. "Michael, is something wrong?" "What the hell were you doing at Ava's school?" I snapped, my hand shaking. There was a long pause. "I was just trying to help," she said finally. "You said you were working late, so I thought—" "I didn't ask you to do that," I interrupted. "You don't get to decide these things." She was silent for a moment, then said quietly, "I was just trying to be a part of your life. Is that such a bad thing?" Her tone was so calm, so measured, it made my skin crawl. That night after I put Ava to bed, I sat in the living room with the lights off, my thoughts racing. The fridge, the texts, the scars, the school, it was all too much. Something wasn't right with Lily. The next day, I told her we needed to talk. We met at a small cafe just outside of town, one of those places with mismatched furniture and an overly cheerful barista. I chose it intentionally, somewhere public, neutral. Somewhere that would make it harder for Lily to make a scene if things went south. She arrived 10 minutes early, as always, and greeted me with a warm smile. "Hi, Michael," she said, sliding into the chair across from me. She didn't waste time with small talk. "You sounded serious on the phone. What's going on?" I stopped short, gripping the edge of the table. The words felt heavy, lodged in my throat. "Lily," I began, keeping my voice calm. "You're a great person, but I don't think this is working out." Her smile faltered just slightly. She tilted her head, her expression still pleasant, but with a sharpness behind her eyes. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "I think we've been moving too fast. I've got a lot on my plate with Ava, and I don't think I'm in the right place for a relationship right now." Her hands, resting on the table, twitched slightly. She clasped them together, her knuckles whitening. "I don't understand. Did I do something wrong?" "No," I said quickly, shaking my head. "It's not about you. It's me. Don't do that," she interrupted, her voice low but firm. "Don't give me the cliché breakup lines. If I did something, just tell me." Her intensity caught me off guard, but I pressed on. "It's not about one thing, Lily. I just think we're not right for each other." She stared at me for a long moment, her eyes searching mine. Then she nodded slowly, a tight, strained smile spreading across her face. "Okay," she said quietly, "if that's how you feel." The rest of the conversation was short, awkward. She didn't argue, didn't cry, didn't make a scene. In some ways, that was worse. Her calmness felt unnatural, like she was holding something back. As we left the cafe, she turned to me, her expression unreadable. "Take care of yourself, Michael," she said. "And Ava, too." I nodded, muttering a quick, "You too," before walking away. For a few days, I thought that was the end of it. I didn't hear from Lily, and life started to feel normal again. Ava and I settled back into our routine, and I told myself I'd made the right decision. But then the texts started. At first, they were sporadic. "I miss you. I just want to talk. Can we please try again?" I ignored them, hoping she'd move on. But they didn't stop. Soon the messages became more unsettling. "You look tired today. Are you sleeping okay? Ava's hair looks so pretty in braids. Did you do that? I don't understand why you're ignoring me." I hadn't seen her. At least I didn't think I had. But the messages made it clear she was watching. One night I came home from work to find a package on my doorstep. There was no name, no return address. Inside was a framed photo of Ava and me taken at the park weeks ago. It wasn't just unsettling, it was invasive. I called Greg, the coworker who'd set us up. "Hey man, do you know much about Lily, like her background?" Greg sounded surprised. "Not really. She's my wife's friend. Why? Is something wrong?" "No," I lied. "Just curious." I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the house and every shadow on the wall felt like her. I started double-checking the locks, pulling the curtains tight, making sure Ava's window was secure. The worst came a week later. I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of my front door creaking open. My heart stopped. I grabbed the baseball bat I kept under my bed and crept down the hall. The door was open, just a crack. There was no sign of anyone inside, but the air felt wrong, heavy, charged. On the floor, just inside the doorway, was a knife. A large, serrated kitchen knife I didn't recognize. I called the police that night, but they found nothing. No prints, no sign of forced entry. Just the knife lying there like a warning. Lily's text stopped after that, but the silence wasn't comforting. It felt like the calm before a storm. The silence stretched on for 2 weeks. No texts, no packages, no sign of Lily. At first I thought maybe she'd finally let it go, that the knife had been her twisted way of saying goodbye. But the unease didn't leave me. Every time I stepped outside, I felt like I was being watched. I changed my routines, dropped Ava off at school earlier, took different routes to work, even started parking in different spots at the grocery store. But the feeling never went away. Then one evening, I came home late after picking Ava up from a friend's house. The porch light was out, though I distinctly remembered leaving it on. As I reached for the key, I noticed the door was slightly open. My stomach dropped. "Stay here," I told Ava, my voice low. She looked up at me, wide-eyed, clutching her backpack. "Get in the car. Lock the car doors and don't open them for anyone but me." She nodded, and I waited until I heard the click of the lock before stepping onto the porch. The house was dark, silent. I gripped the baseball bat I'd left in the corner by the door and moved cautiously inside. Nothing looked out of place at first. No broken glass, no overturned furniture. But as I walked into the living room, I saw it. A photo album sitting open on the coffee table. It wasn't mine. The pages were filled with pictures, all of Ava and me. Some I recognized, ones I'd taken at the park or on family outings. But others were taken from angles I didn't recognize, through windows from a distance, from places Lily couldn't have been without following us. I flipped through the pages, my hands shaking. At the back of the album, tucked into a sleeve, was a folded piece of paper. I pulled it out and opened it, my breath catching in my throat. It was a handwritten list. Ava's school schedule, Michael's work hours, weekly grocery trips, favorite park bench, every detail of my life, written out in her neat, precise handwriting. A sound came from upstairs, a low creak, like someone shifting their weight. My blood ran cold. Gripping the bat tighter, I crept up the stairs, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might give me away. At the top of the landing, Ava's door was closed, but mine was open. Light spilled out into the hallway. I pushed the door open, slowly, the bat raised. Lily was standing in the middle of the room, her back to me. She held one of my shirts in her hands, rubbing the fabric between her fingers. Her hair was loose, cascading down her back, and she was humming softly, a slow, haunting tune that made the hairs on my skin stiffen. "Lily?" She turned slowly, her face calm, her eyes glassy. "Michael," she said, her voice as soft and measured as ever, "I've missed you." "What the hell are you doing here?" I demanded, stepping further into the room. She tilted her head, studying me like I was the one who didn't belong. "This is where I should be. With you, with Ava. We're meant to be a family." I shook my head, my grip tightening on the bat. "You need to leave, Lily. Now." Her expression didn't change, if anything, and she looked amused. "You don't understand, do you? I've been so patient, so careful. I gave you time, but you keep pushing me away." She took a step forward, and I noticed something glinting in her hand, a knife. It wasn't just any knife. It was the same serrated knife I'd found by the door weeks ago. "Lily, put the damn knife down." She laughed softly, almost to herself. "You don't get it. I don't want to hurt you, Michael. I love you. But if you keep fighting me, I won't have a choice." My mind was racing, every instinct screaming at me to act. She was blocking the doorway, her grip on the knife steady. I glanced toward the nightstand where my phone was charging. It was too far to reach without giving her an opening. "Think about Ava," I said, my voice firmer. "You care about her, don't you? She's downstairs. She'll hear everything." Lily's expression shifted just for a moment. Her eyes flicked toward the door, and I saw my chance. I lunged, swinging the bat with all the strength I had. It hit her arm, sending the knife clattering to the floor. She screamed, a raw sound of pain and rage, and lunged for me. We struggled, the bat slipping from my grasp as she clawed at my face, her nails raking across my skin. I managed to pin her arms, using my weight to push her back against the wall. "Stop! It's over!" she thrashed, but I held firm until her movement slowed, her breath ragged. Finally, I grabbed the bat again and stood, keeping it between us as I backed toward the door. "I'm calling the police," I said, my voice shaking. Her eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw something crack in her expression. Not fear, something darker. Resignation. "You think this is over," she whispered. "I do, and you will never see me or Ava again. You are so damn lucky I don't bash your head in right now. I will do anything to protect my daughter. Anything." I probably shouldn't have said that, but something inside me had snapped. All I felt was rage, knowing this woman could have hurt Ava, or hurt me, leaving Ava without a father. The police arrived within minutes, and Lily was arrested without further incident. As they led her away, she glanced back at me, her lips curling into a sadistic smile. The officers found evidence in her car. Photos, journals, keepsakes from other victims. She was tied to multiple disappearances, including her last boyfriend. The scars on her arms told their own story, remnants of struggles with people who hadn't been as lucky as me. But even after she was gone, her presence remained. The first few days after Lily's arrest were a blur of police interviews, sleepless nights, and an gnawing sense of unease. The officers praised me for acting quickly, for defending myself, for protecting Ava. But no amount of reassurance could erase the memory of her face, the cold certainty in her eyes as they took her away. I didn't tell Ava everything. She was too young to understand the full scope of what had happened. I explained that Lily wasn't well, that she wouldn't be coming around anymore. Ava seemed relieved, though she didn't say much. She just hugged me tighter than usual at bedtime, her small arms wrapped around my neck like she was afraid to let go. The house didn't feel the same. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind rattling the windows, sent my nerves into overdrive. I found myself double-checking the locks multiple times a night, peering out the windows to make sure no one was there. I even bought a security system, complete with cameras, motion detectors, and alarms. But it wasn't just the physical reminders of Lily that haunted me. It was the memories. The photo album, the knife, the way she stood in the dark humming that eerie, tuneless melody. The nights were the worst. I'd wake up in a cold sweat. The image of her standing over me burned into my mind. Sometimes I thought I could still hear her voice, soft and calm, saying my name. I went back to work after a week, hoping the routine would help. It didn't. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach dropped, half expecting to see her name. Every time someone walked too close behind me, I felt my muscles tense. Even the sound of Ava's laughter in the park reminded me of the day Lily had watched us from the swings, her gaze unblinking, her smile too knowing. The trial came quickly. Lily's lawyer tried to argue insanity, pointing to her compulsive behaviors and the trauma she'd allegedly endured in her past. But the evidence was damning. The journals found in her car detailed everything. Her fixation on me, her plan to become part of our family, and the names of her previous victims. There were photos, too, and small keepsakes she'd taken from each of them. The scars on her arms were a chilling testament to the fights they'd put up, fights they'd lost. She was convicted on multiple counts of murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. The detectives told me I'd likely saved not just my life, but Ava's as well. It should have felt like closure, but it didn't. The sight of her being led out of the courtroom in handcuffs, her head held high, her expression calm, it stayed with me. Months passed. Ava and I settled back into our routine. Still, there was this nagging sense that something wasn't right. Dating was out of the question. Even the thought of it made me uneasy. I told myself it was better this way, that Ava was my priority. But deep down, I knew the truth. I didn't trust anyone anymore, not after Lily. One evening, as I was tucking Ava into bed, she looked up at me, her eyes wide. "Daddy, are you okay?" she asked softly. I forced a smile. "Yes, sweetie. I'm okay." She frowned, her little brow furrowing. "You look sad." I paused, then kissed her forehead. "Just tired," I said. "Go to sleep. I'll be right here." As I sat on the couch that night, staring at the blank TV screen, I felt the weight of everything settle over me. Lily was gone, locked away where she couldn't hurt anyone else. But the fear she'd planted, the cracks she'd left in my sense of safety and sanity, it was still there. The scars weren't just hers anymore, and somehow I knew they would never go away.